Good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, the Supreme Litigant, and I'd like to welcome everybody back to Smart Low TV. If you haven't already, please go ahead, hit that like button, that subscription button, and turn that notification bell on. I'll give y'all a few seconds to do that. All right, so I'm gonna jump right into this, y'all. Today we're gonna get back to the child support thing because I've gotten so many emails in regards to this child support issue. The author of the book, me and him are planning on doing a show. Hopefully it'll be done by the end of this month. It'll be a series of shows. But this is the author's TikTok. And I'm gonna play you some of his videos and let him articulate this argument for you that he's trying to make in about 10 minutes or less. Hopefully it can be done in about 10 minutes or less. Well, I'm gonna start with part one, and then we're gonna go on to I think there's about 5 parts. It stops about right here, and we'll stop there. And if I need to, I'll provide some commentary on it throughout the process. So let's go ahead.
Yo, what's going on, people? So I want to tell you about the most important lawsuit pending in this country right now. It is a lawsuit that has been filed against the state of Georgia in the Fulton County Superior Court, who had to be drop-served summons in this case and has refused to appear after 30 days of being served because they want no parts to do with what this case proves. And that is that millions of non-absent parents and fathers have been paying child support unconstitutionally. According to the 11th Circuit, the remedy has always been staring the people in the face. It is clear that families with absent fathers are the intended beneficiaries of Title 4D. So what if I told you that a young black brother from the state of Georgia has now legally articulated who is non-absent? Follow me for part two.
All right, let's go to part two.
So in part one of this series, I left off describing how I prove in this Fulton County case that millions of non-absent parents are paying child support unconstitutionally, and how I legally articulated who is a non-absent parent. Now, according to the Supreme Court cases on the screen, which has never been overturned, and basic common sense, a parent cannot be an absent parent if that parent's absence is caused through no fault of his or her own. Now, to disagree would be similar to an officer holding the passenger of a vehicle liable to the laws of speeding and not the actual driver. Using this same analogy, how can a parent absent through no fault of his or her own be liable under Title 4D laws specifically created to decrease dependency on welfare arising from absent parents in the household? Now, this is not based on my belief, but based on Supreme Court cases, with one Indiana Supreme Court case that will ring bells across this country in this stating, and I quote,
Pay attention,
when a man abandons his child and casts it upon the public, he becomes liable for its support. But it is entirely impossible to treat a child as thus cast upon the public, when the fact simply is the mother has deserted the father and carried the child away. Now, this describes...
All right, let me stop it right there. So what he's saying, I'm not sure if y'all are catching on, but what he's saying is an absent parent is an absent parent because they want to be an absent parent, not because they were forced to be an absent parent. So in other words, if you become an absent parent and it's your fault that you are an absent parent, then Title 4D is applicable to you. However, if you become an absent parent through no fault of your own, then as a matter of law, you are removed from the duty to support the child because you don't qualify for the definition of an absent parent within Title 4D, if that makes sense. All right, that's what he's saying. Also, well, I'll let another video play, and then I'll mention it in that one. Give me a second.
Describes the occurrence of what millions of fathers were going through before the creation of their support orders. The fact which by operation rewarded the mother in monthly payments for 18 years for parental alienation, when according to natural law, this should have never occurred or ever happened. Again, not based on my belief, but Supreme Court cases, with one Georgia Supreme Court case stating that whatever deprives the parent of the right to the custody of the child without fault on his part relieves him from the duty to support. Even the Supreme Court New Hampshire case in 19...
I'm going to stop the video right here because I'm reading this comment right here. This is from a woman, Jessica Harris. It says, "This is amazing and so true. Can he get a refund too?" And the author says, "Depends on a few facts." Yes, he can get a refund, and his remedy is in equity because that is unjust enrichment. Yes, he can get a refund on that. I haven't read that in the case nowhere, but that's unjust enrichment. You committed fraud against me. You've obtained my so-called money from me unjustly. So yeah, the remedy is in equity. If my understanding of this is correct, the remedy is in equity. And I'm about 99.99999% I'm correct.
1984 stated that the obligation of the parent to support the child is contingent upon the parent actually retaining custody. So what this means is, this case proves that a parent is only obligated to pay support to their child while in their own household until he or she burdens the other parent with financial support in his or her absence. And anything less is state interference on privacy rights absent a legitimate state interest. Follow for...
All right, I'm going to stop it right there. So this was the video. When he says, I think he said a property right. The reason why he's referencing it as a property right is because you have a property interest in your kids. To I want to say it's if I'm not mistaken, based on the cases that I've read in his previous book, it is their labor. You're entitled to receive proceeds or profits or something like that from their labor. All right, so what they're doing is when they take your kid from you and they give you visitation or something like that, they're applying an incorrect standard, an incorrect legal standard. So most of y'all understand the best interest standard. However, the best interest standard is not the correct standard because of you have a fundamental property right in the interest of your your kid. And because it's a fundamental right, or in other words, a constitutional right, the standard is strict scrutiny. And in order for them to overcome in order for the state to overcome strict scrutiny, I think they have to have a compelling public interest, if I'm not mistaken, to overcome that standard. That's what he's saying. So let me well, this video is pretty much done. Let me see. It's only got 1 second. I don't know what it's doing. All right, let's go to part 3.
So this is part 3 where we left off speaking that parents are only entitled to pay support to their child in their own household out of their own pocket, unless and until that parent has become an absent parent. Now, in the comment section of my previous videos, there are still women who believe, and surprisingly not that many, that this case is only trying to get men out of paying child support. That is not the case. What this case proves, and what many men are attempting to do, is what most women are currently doing right now. That is paying their fair share of support out of their own pocket in their own household. This is why 50-50 joint custody is so important, because you cannot make a parent an absent parent by depriving the parent of 50% of the custody through no fault of his or her own. Doing so actually relieves that duty. So this is part 3 where we
All right, let's go to the next one. I'm sorry, I was just reading these comments. This woman says, my husband is paying over $1,000 a month in child support due to BS, and the woman kept the child a secret and didn't even tell him he had them. Thank you for this. So on and so forth. That's crazy. Let's go to, that was part 3. Let's go to part 4.
Now, this is part 4 of a series where we left off speaking that no parent can become an absent parent if deprived of the custody of the child through no fault of his or her own, because in doing so, actually relieves that parent from the legal duty of support. Now, this is not based on my opinions or belief, but based on the actual highlighted case law sitting on the screen, with one stating, whatever deprives the parent of the right to the custody and services of the child without fault on his part relieves him from the duty to support. Now, when I began this series, I stated that this case proves that millions of non-absent parents are paying child support unconstitutionally. And a lot of people still may not understand what is a non-absent parent as it relates to Title 4D in the context that I am attempting to articulate it. So I believe these visualization charts will suffice. So, when a mother or father decides to walk away from their legal duties and responsibilities to their child, they become an absent parent through the faults of their own free will and not the faults of anybody else. In turn, as you can see in the second slide, this now burdens the other parent. She now or he now has all of the time, and the other parent refuses to render a proper financial support in that parent's absence. So because of this, parent B goes down to the state welfare office to seek state assistance from the taxpayer because
I'm gonna stop right there. And I'm gonna say 2 words, and y'all need to look these words up. Parents betray. Not sure if I said it right, but it's a Latin word. Parents betray. That's what's going on.
parent A refuses to exercise his or her share of the custody and refuses to render a proper financial support in their absence. This is why Title 4D was created, to reduce dependency on the welfare rolls caused by absent parents. With that said, it cannot be the intent of Title 4D for a parent to deprive the other parent of the custody of the child and then cry foul to the state as one needing of monthly support. We learned in the beginning of this video that that would actually go against natural law. So what this case proves is exactly what I stated, that millions of non-absent parents are paying child support unconstitutionally. And it also proves that no court or agency ever asked, are you an absent parent?
All right, that was part 4, and this will be the last part right here.
What's going on, people? So this is part 5 of a series of how my case proves that millions of non-absent parents have been paying child support unconstitutionally. Now, before we begin, I must state that the state of Georgia has now finally decided to appear in this case after initially refusing to do so. And this came 7 days after dropping the first video of this series, which has now done over 700,000 views on TikTok. And as a result, we are now in discovery, where a very important question has been asked. And that is, describe and identify what the department classifies or deems to be the definition of an absent and non-absent parent. The answer of which will have foundational implications.
Let me stop right there. So the guy speaking in this video, he wrote another book. I have a copy of the book. And according to him, it's better than the previous book that I've been emailing y'all. I didn't read it all. I skimmed through it a little bit, and I found something very interesting. Title 4D. There's no definition for the word absent parent. I'm not. This says father, but there's no definition for the word absent parent in it. They left it blank. So what this means is, since they didn't have a definition for it, they would either have to go to look in a law dictionary. Obviously, there's probably one. There's probably wasn't a definition for absent parent in there. And so, long story short, it got appealed all the way up to, I want to say, the U.S. Supreme Court, if I'm not mistaken. And the Supreme Court came up with a common law definition for absent parent. All right, we'll talk about that later, but it's pretty much the same thing. We'll talk about it a little later on the show. When we do the show, we'll get into all of that.
Felt across this country, because if Title 4D was designed and intended for children with absent parents, then surely if the department has not a clue of what the definition of a absent or non-absent parent is, then my statement rings true, that millions of non-absent parents have been paying child support unconstitutionally. What's going on, people?
All right, so essentially what he's saying unconstitutionally, he's saying that all of this is not just in Georgia, just to let y'all know. That is why this is extremely important. This is all over the country. So what he's saying is, these so-called courts, they're not courts, y'all. I'm saying that, and I'm 100% certain of that. They are administrative agencies, okay? They are created by the legislature, and they are enforcing statutes. That's what they're doing. All right. So these administrative agencies, masquerading as courts, are unlawfully enforcing child support on you. They're violating your due process rights. That's what he's saying, and he's not lying. Anyway, that'll be the end of this video. Whenever I get a date on the show, y'all, I will let y'all know as soon as I get a date on it and a time frame. It's gonna be, you can call into the show if you got questions and stuff like that. Just let me know and just call in, and I'll let you speak to, either you can speak to me or you can speak to the co-host, and we can just go from there. But that'll be the end of this video. The Supreme Litigant is out. Peace. Oh, one more thing. Y'all follow him on TikTok, man. Follow that guy on TikTok. This man know what he's talking about. Peace.